Okay, great. I'm going to get started. So, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Simmons. I am the program manager for the Communities Initiative team here at Mass Cultural Council. And that team, as probably many of you already know, is the Local Cultural Council program, the Cultural District program, and festivals and projects, which we share now with the organizations team at the agency. I want to let you know that we will be taking questions and answering questions at the end of this presentation. So please feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat. Actually, put them in the Q&A. It's easier for us to monitor them there. So put all of your questions or any questions that you have in the Q&A. In addition, we do have closed caption turned on. So if you need to use the closed caption, you can do so by clicking in your on your Zoom box to make sure that you're seeing that. So today we are talking about managing LCC funds. We have done a number of other webinars for you around guidelines and around the application, and there's more to come. So make sure that you're connecting with your program officer. So as I said before, I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Cheyenne and Timothea, who are going to be managing that Q&A. So let's get started. So one of the things that we really wanted to talk about today was the account form, obviously. And this webinar is really focused on the financial aspect of it. We do have another webinar called Grant Decisions that you'll be getting towards the end of or middle of October as you're starting to really review your grant applications and then how to put all that information into the GMS system. So today we're really basically going to be talking about the account forms that were sent to the municipalities. And so I'm hoping we have municipal folks on as well as LCCs so that we can help you understand and manage the form and then getting it into the GMS system. So we're going to talk about the form. We're going to talk about sections 1 and 2. We'll do a tutorial, and then I'm going to just share some resources that we have, the grant tracking spreadsheet, the ledger template, and the municipal meeting prep sheet, which is all on our website. So to begin with, I just wanted to let you guys know that the FY25 local guidelines are up on our website. You can find them at this link, and this PowerPoint will be available to you in addition to the recording, which we'll send out probably sometime next week. But one of the things I wanted to call to your attention in the guidelines for this year is this section on management of local cultural council funds. So one of the things that we want to make sure that everybody knows is that all of your funds, all of the Mass Cultural Council funds, state funds from us, interest earned, locally raised funds need to be in the LCC's municipal account. And that account must be a revolving account that is kept separate and apart from all other monies that are administered by the city or the town treasurer. This is specified in MGL Chapter 10, Section 58. If you want to go back to and look at the Mass General Law. And the other thing is LCCs are entitled to interest on their municipal accounts. I know that's been questions in the past. So I just wanted to make sure that I highlight that. The funds may be spent as the local cultural council directs. That's the local cultural council's autonomy to make those decisions on grant applications, but it must be consistent with the Mass Cultural Council guidelines. In addition, if an LCC has created their own priorities and guidelines, then you would be following those as well. So there should not be separate checkbooks. There should not be separate accounts for all the different LCC money. It should all be in one revolving account. That means the money that comes from the Mass Cultural Council, whether that be through an LCC allocation or possibly a festivals grant, and then any money that the LCC may fundraise for, any money that the municipality would give to the LCC, all of that needs to be in the account at the municipality for the LCC. Now, before the grant cycle begins, we send the LCC accounting form to each one of the municipality's fiscal officer. Now, that went out on August 22nd. So if, as a municipality, as a municipal fiscal officer, you haven't received it, or as the LCC, if you have not spoken with your municipal fiscal officer, or they have informed you that they haven't received the form yet, we did get some bounce back. So please make sure that you respond to either myself or your program officer if there are any questions about that. So the next thing is once you receive that form as a municipal fiscal officer and the local cultural council, you should be meeting between now and September 30th to go over your accounting and make sure they match. So you are giving, more than likely the LCC will be giving either, reimbursement forms or direct grant information to the municipality when money needs to be paid out. And then you both are keeping sort of like ledgers so that when you're coming together in September, you just want to make sure you're on the same page. This is key because we want to make sure that when you get to the point for amount available for granting, that you both know and agree on what the number is. And if there is a discrepancy, you just need to sort of figure out how to resolve that. And if you can't, then you should definitely be in touch with your program officer. It's important that we get ahead of this. If there is some sort of discrepancy, if we're sort of off in our numbers, that we get ahead of this before you go to your grant meeting to make these decisions on your applications. And we're here to help you with that. Just wanted to quickly go over a couple of definitions. The fiscal year is a 1-year period of time that we use for financial reporting. It matches our fiscal year, which begins on July 1st of each year and ends on June 30th. So right now we're in fiscal year 25. State funds are, as I mentioned before, allocations from Mass Cultural Council, festivals, mitigation money, any other funds that might be coming in from the state. And then your locally raised funds, and we'll go over this when we go over the form, includes funds that don't come through the Mass Cultural Council, but are funds that the municipality might give a match to the local cultural council. You might get some fundraising money. And then encumbered funds, which comes into play on the second tab of the form, are the funds that you've promised, that you've granted, that you've given to a grantee, but they haven't yet either asked for that money through reimbursement, or they have not filed their direct granting paperwork in order to get that money. So that money is unencumbered, and you need to have all this information in order, again, to make sure that you're calculating the right amount of money that you need to grant out. So the LCC account form or LCC financial account form is due on October 16th. Now, when I mean by due, it means it should be processed and put into the GMS system by the 16th, because that is the last day that applicants can apply. And anytime after that, you can start holding your grant meetings. The wonderful thing over the past couple of years is that LCCs have access to all of the applications that are coming in. So you can actually go to your portal now and start looking to see whether or not you received applications. You can start reviewing them on your own, just taking a look at them. And so you can actually create your meeting sooner than you were able to in the past when you were waiting for panel books to come from us. So that's a wonderful thing that you can just, and the other thing I just want to say about that is that it's a great idea to monitor the applications that are coming into your LCC, because there may be people that want to apply and haven't, or you need to do some more outreach so you can get more applications. So it's always good to sort of like just keep on top of that. So this is what the account form. This is section 1 of the account form, which is called the LCC account section. It documents revenues, all the money and expenditures that happened during the previous fiscal year. So that would be FY24. So this account form here, and we're just going to go over this with so it says here, beginning balance 7/1/23, ending balance 24, and I'll have a better picture. We'll go over this a little bit more, but I just wanted to share it with you. So this is what the form looks like. There's been a little bit of confusion when you download the form. It automatically goes to the second tab, and you might not think that you can work inside of it, but you just need to move to the first tab. So everything needs to start on the first tab in order for everything else to make sense. When you submit this first tab. When you say submit, you are not able to go back and make changes to it. You're gonna, if you need to make changes because something's not adding up, just call your program officer and they can reopen it for you and get you started again. So this form is the main one from your municipal fiscal officer, who's going to have all this information in a ledger and be able to basically fill that in and then share it with the LCC. The other part of the financial account form is tab 2, which is calculate amount available for granting. This is, incredibly important to get these numbers right. You do not want to go into a grant meeting after you've done your applications and you're really excited and you're like, we're going to grant out $15,000 because that's the money it said that we have, and then to find out that you don't have that much and you've either overgranted or undergranted. So that's why we want both of these forms completed by the 16th, so that for sure going into that grant meeting where you're reviewing applications and making decisions on the amount of funding that you're going to give to certain grantees, that the numbers all add up and you're right on par with exactly what this document says. So you're going to calculate the funds that have been spent from your account from the beginning of FY25. So this is a snapshot of fiscal year 25. So this goes from July 1, 2024 to whenever this form is filled out. So if you meet with your town accountant, municipal fiscal officer on September 30th, then that all of this information that you're gonna put in this form is gonna be from July 1, 2024 to September 30th, 2024. So it'll just sort of it'll start to make those calculations to get to that, as I said, that amount available for granting. So submitting your financial report. So as I said, these need to be completed by the 16th. You're going to go into the grants management system. You're going to log into that system. You're going to click on financial report. You're going to open your FY25 record. You're going to assure that all the funds are correct. And then once you do that and you have that amount available for granting, you're going to hold your meetings. The thing about the amount available for granting, which is the second tab for your financial forms, you will not get locked out of that. So you will be able to go back in and change that if you need to, because sometimes something shifts. Sometimes you find out that a grantee from last year isn't going to be using a certain, the money that you gave them because they couldn't do their program. So that's going to come from encumbered and go back into the granting pool. So there are, and again, your program officers are your best resource if you're having questions about, what should be in this part of the form, or the form's not working properly. Please reach out to them. So we're going to go over a tutorial, but what I wanted to do first before we did that was sort of go over the form that was sent out to the municipal fiscal officers. And you also have a municipal prep sheet that is sort of mirrors this form that was sent to the municipal folks in your municipalities, that you can actually fill in also. So when you go to your meeting, you can have your municipal prep sheet and they'll have this form, or they're going to just send this to you and you can match it with what you, okay? So this is the form, this is the page. And if you can see down here on the bottom, there's 4 different tabs. 2 tabs are the most important, obviously. So here we are at the local cultural council account form. The beginning balance. So I'm going to put in some numbers so that you can see how it's going to work. So I put in the beginning balance, from the year before, it was 12,500. So the fiscal year 24 allocation is, let's say it's 5,500. Okay. And then let's say the municipality was like, we're going to give this LCC an additional $1,000. We're going to give them an additional $1,000 so that because we think they're doing a fabulous job. And then as we said before, the LCC account can collect interest. So let's say there's $2.17 of interest in this. And then let's say that this particular LCC raised an additional $500 from a fundraiser that they did. And as you can see in this form, it self-calculates. So you're getting down to your total revenue. And I just want to click on this self-calculating field. And if you can see on the, it gives you the formula of what it's calculated. Okay. So we have, right now we have total revenues of 7,000. When you're doing the expenditure, so then we have what's, and we've put all that in there, and then we need to see what's been spent in fiscal year 24. So what has been spent from July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Okay. So we're going to click on expenditure details, and it's the last tab on this sheet. And I've put in a couple of names. So these are the people I'm paying. This is a payment. And then I'm going to pay Lisa $4,500. And I'm going to pay June. Let's say we paid June $4,000. Okay. So this, now the payment amounts come over here to the self-calculating field. And here's $8,500. I'm going to click return to the account form. And then it will automatically put that number right in here in box 5. So those are the expenditures that went out of the account in fiscal year 24. Now our balance is self-calculating. Again, here's the formula in the upper formula bar, what the actual formula is. And so I have 11,000 for my, for the amount of money that's in my account. And then local revenue remaining in the account. So one of the things, this is an important box. If you have money that is not Mass Cultural Council money, and you've raised extra money, so we have other revenue, you want to make sure that these locally raised funds, if you don't want them to be part of your grant pool, in fiscal year 25, you need to say $11,000, 1,500 of it, because we can see it up here, 1,500 in the locally raised funds, $1,000, $2.17, and 500. The remaining of the out of the total funds in the account balance end of fiscal year, enter the amount of funds that are locally raised. So you never even spent 100. So I'm going to put it in here. It's not going to affect your balance right now, but it will factor in when we go to do the calculated amount available for granting. Then you're going to need the FCC entry code A12L. This is the same for every municipality. So in the past, every municipality had their own MCC entry code. This year, it's the same. You're going to put the name of the municipal officer. You're going to put your signature, the member who's certifying that these are the correct numbers. Then we're going to move over to the second tab. We move over to the second tab, and you'll see some of these things I already added in, but box A automatically comes over from the first tab, so you don't have to worry about it. And then I've said, okay, this is what we've spent. This is what has left our account since July 1, 2024, because money is still being paid out. If it's reimbursement or even direct grant, you're still paying out money to people. And then we have $4,000 that's still sitting in our account because those grantees haven't asked for that money yet. So we're going to put $4,000 in there. Any additional local revenue? No, we don't have any additional revenue. And you just put a 0 in there and then it zeroes itself out. So the available remaining balance, because again, the self-calculating field and calculations are going to be up here in the formula bar, is telling me that I have 2,502. But I know that there's $1,500, there's $100 I don't necessarily want to add to this year's grant cycle. I want to make sure that I'm keeping them separate. So I'm going to subtract it out. So box F is saying to me, what do you want to do with that money that you have left over? Do you want it? And I'm saying, no, I don't want it to be. I'm going to put my 1,500 in there. I'm not going to any administrative funds, but remember, all LCCs can take 5% of their FY25 allocation for admin funds. So this is just a decision you need to make at the LCC level. Your FY25 allocation, I'm saying, is going to be $700 this year. There was an increase to the CC allocation this year from 5,500 to from 5.5 million to 5.7 million. So everyone is going to be getting a bump this year. So I put that in there, and then come down to the amount available for granting, which is a self-calculating field. And again, there's the formula. And the self-calculating field is telling me I'm getting $6,702.17 to grant out. Woohoo! That's awesome. So this is the form that your town accountant, you need to go over with your town accountant. You need to make sure all the numbers are there, because, and then when the town accountant sends it to the local cultural council, it is the local cultural council's responsibility, not the town accountant, but the or the municipal fiscal officer, but the LCC's responsibility to get that into the GMS system. So let's take a look at to see how we get this into the GMS system. So, as I said before, you need to go into your portal. So I'm going to click on here. I'm going to head into the portal. And you're going to do your email and your login. You're going to log in, and you're going to find your LCC, and you're going to open it, and you're going to see on the left side, it gives you all the information about your council, your contacts, what the organization is, financial report, grant decisions, and cycle applications, which will start to, if you click on that, you'll be able to see the number of applications that have come in. But right now, we're focusing on the financial report. So I want to click on financial report, and it's going to be, then you're just going to open it up, and you'll see here, LCC account form. And what I want to show you also is you'll see the LCC account form here. You will not see the second tab, calculate amount available for granting, until you finish this form first. The wonderful thing that our GMS folks have done at the agency is really give detailed instructions on each one of these pages. It's like that for your whole portal, like even, from the council priorities to everything. Every time you click on, there's the directions that are given to you are really very concise and very clear. But if you have questions, always, feel free to call your program officer. So this account form in our GMS system is the exact same, follows the exact same, the form from your town accountant. All right. So basically, it's really cut and paste. So let's take a look at that. Let's just go over them. I'm going to move these a little bit so we can see what our numbers are. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. So here's box 1, and here's box 1. So basically, you're just going to go in, you're going to put in the same amounts that are coming off of the form that you're going to receive from the municipal fiscal officer. So I'm just going to fill these in so you can see as I do it. Okay, other revenue. And in the GMS system, it doesn't self-calculate. So that's why this form is really important. So this is really, as I said before, it's like a case. So make sure that you go back and check you're transferring the correct numbers. So total expenditures, we're going to say it's $8,500. And then account balance, which is box 6, is going to be 11,002.17. Unspent local revenue is going to be 1,500. I already have the municipal code in there. I've already put in who the accountant is. I've clicked on the box here that says my section's complete. I've put in the information about the council representative, and I'm going to try to submit this. Submit. It's going to say to me, are you sure you want to proceed? And you're saying, yes, I would love to proceed. So once that it's saved and it's completed. And then if you scroll down, now you'll see the next tab is available. Calculate the amount available for granting. So, and you can also see that you can no longer fill in these boxes on the LCC account form. They're no longer available for you to do that because you've already submitted this. So if, as I said before, there's an issue with these numbers, that things that you find out as you're going through don't add up, this is where you're going to need to call your program officer to have them reopen this for you and make any changes that need to be made. So let's move over to calculate the amount available for granting. So here we are again with great directions if you get stuck. So you're going to scroll down, and basically this is where, as I said, this is what's telling us what's going on in fiscal year 25. So the report needs to say in this calendar, this is the date when the municipal fiscal officer filled out the form. It's not July 1, 2024. It's going to be sometime in September or October that this number is, because this date is basically giving us a snapshot of what's happened in your account from July 1, 2024 to current day. All right, so make sure that sometimes that gets confusing. The account balance is going to come over automatically. Okay, from one. So then we have to put in our expenditures. So we have the form here. Let me just move this out of the way. Okay, so then we have the amount available for granting, which they're the second tab of the form that the municipal fiscal officer filled out and that the LCC will put into the GMS system. So here we filled it out. So again, it's going to be, you're just moving from one thing to the next. So box B is 4,500. Box C, because we're encumbering those funds, is 4,000. Box D is additional revenue, not right now. So we're saying no, there's nothing in there. And the available box E. So what are the things? This is a very important thing. So here it says box E, the available remaining balance is still 11,002. How is that possible? Well, it works like a calculator, right? So in order for the calculations to take place with all the information that you just put in, you need to hit save draft. That's what happens when we hit draft. So we hit save draft. Now, box E is 2,502.17, which is the same as box E here from the municipal sheet. Okay, so just remember, you have to hit save draft in order for those calculations. Again, now we're focusing on the voting meeting decisions. It's going to give you all this great instruction for the next thing that you need to do. So box F, and this is where I talked about when you want to when you have local funds, and in the account form, the first tab, you need to make sure that you put that in so that you can also pull it out in the second tab and calculate amount available for granting. So you want to make sure that these funds aren't going to get, so your local funds that you're going to keep in reserve, because you might want to do a festival. It's not something that has to be done within the confines of the Mass Cultural Council allocation timeline, because it's money that you've raised on your own. You can make a decision to add it to your allocation funds to give money to applicants, or you can choose to keep whatever money that you've raised outside of the allocation to do something on your own. So just so you know that. All right, so box G, we've said 0, we're not using any money. And box H is your allocation of 5,700. And then your amount available for granting. So I'm not seeing the box H allocation is not opened up, but it should be opened up. In order to give the amount available for granting is actually going to be 67. So I'm not quite sure why this.
Do you have to hit save draft for it to update, Lisa?
I don't know. I'm going to check. That's a good question. Thank you. So box H is, in this particular one, not loading. But in yours, it should load. It should be able to, this box should be open for you to add in your FY25 allocation. So the other thing is, actually, your FY25 allocation should automatically be in your own LCC portal. So when we did the allocations and updated them all, when you go into your financial report and are doing this, your allocation is going to be there right away. You're not going to have to put it in there. It should already be in there. If it's not, please contact your program officer. This is a test site for LCC, so we don't have an allocation. So that's what I'm going to show you. This should all end up being the same. And then you're going to submit it. It's going to ask you again, do you want to proceed? And you're going to say yes. And then you're all set. And you should be able to then actually have everything that you need, the knowledge of having the amount available for granting and knowing that going into your grant cycle and your application review is really important. Only other thing that I want to talk about, that we have documents that are on our website. The ledger template, it records all account transactions and expenditures, and you can find it on our toolkit. It looks like this. So basically it's for the LCC to make sure that they're throughout the course of the grant cycle, after you've done your granting and you know who you're giving money to, it's a good idea to sort of have this ledger. So when the reimbursement forms come in or direct grant paperwork comes in and you've sent it off to the fiscal officer, that you have your own template. The one is the grant tracking spreadsheet. So this is also, and everyone uses their own sort of like tracking, whether it's an Excel document or whatever, but we just provide these resources and opportunities for you in order, to sort of keep track of what's going on your end, so that when you have periodic meetings with your fiscal officers, you'll have a running account of what you believe has been sent to the officer, or what you understand has come in to get reimbursed. And then we also have updated the municipal meeting prep sheet. That's the prep sheet that I talked about, which mirrors the account form that was given to the municipal officers at the end of August, so that you can sort of like go along with them and be able to make sure that you all are on the same page. So those are all in the toolkit, and they link out through this PowerPoint, which we're going to send you, so you'll be able to use those. So just in closing, we just wanted to talk a little bit about financial best practices. So, make sure you're receiving regular reports about your account activity. If there's any questions, if you're having any issues or problems with getting information, again, please let us know. We can help with that. You definitely want to establish a clear process with the municipality for reimbursements, and especially with direct granting. If you are direct grant councils, just making sure that the municipality and the municipal fiscal officer understands the paperwork and the W-9s that are coming in. So we just want to make sure that there's a clear process that you're working with and clear communication. You should be tracking all of your account expenditures and revenue throughout the year. I think it's really important, and that's why we're offering those ledger sheets and the grant tracking sheets. I think those come in really helpful. And then you want to track all approved grants and, excuse me, reimbursement requests, and whether or not you're going to encumber or unencumber funds. It's really, really important, excuse me. It's really important, especially during this time of year, when you have outstanding grantees who have not collected their money, whether it's reimbursement or direct grant, that it's best practices to reach out to them to see whether or not they're going to be using all of their funds, where they are in the process of their programs, just in case they're not going to use all of their money, they can't do the program, they need to request a modification, or they need to request an extension, just so that you know, so that before you go into your fiscal 25 grant meetings, that there may be extra money if someone's not going to be using their funds. So it's a good idea to reach out to them now. So just an FYI, your entire annual report, that is with your grant decisions and everything, is due on January 16th. And so we're going to have another webinar to talk about that, or we're going to send you our grants decision webinar. And just to tell you and remind everybody, and you'll hear about this again in the grant decision webinar, you can only submit, remember, you can only submit the entire annual report once you've made decisions on your applications, once you've sent out your denial letters, which gets sent out via the system, so you don't have to worry about that. The reconsideration period has expired, then you can submit your annual report. And we just continue to say this: do not send out approval letters before you submit your annual report. If for some reason there's an issue with denial letters or reconsideration, and you want to send out your approval letters, before a lot of that has been resolved, please speak to your program officer before you do that. We want to make sure that the amount available for granting matches the correct number of grantees, and that the denial periods have gone and the reconsideration period has been finished before you submit your annual report. And when you do submit the entire annual report at the end of January and mid-January, there is also something that goes out from the system telling people, in addition to the LCC, who's going to be sending out your own letters. But just so you know, you have got to complete the entire grant cycle in order to send out your approval letters. So, and that's something that we'll talk about later on, mid-October, when we send out the grant decision reports. And but we just wanted you to know these sort of like best practices going forward. So today was all about the financial reports that need to be in by the 16th, how you fill them in, how you get them into your GMS system. I hope that was helpful. And then again, any questions that you have, please let your program officers know. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for listening. And if we have any questions, we can take those questions now.
Thank you, Lisa. This is Cheyenne. If you could go back to the accounting form, there was some questions about where specific things would go. So I think it would be great. Okay, great. So someone has asked if they have money that is encumbered, but for approved grants that did not happen. So
Okay.
that money was, where would they put that?
So if you find, as you're going into FY25, your FY25 grant cycle, if you find that there are grantees that couldn't do their projects, then you would simply unencumber them. So basically, let's say right here, let's go over to, I have right now, where is it? Okay. So I have 2,000 right now in my encumbered amounts. Let's say 1,000 of that, the grantee is no longer going to do their program. So I'm no longer going to encumber it. So I don't need to. So basically, I'm just going to change this from 4,000, 3,000, and see how it changes the amount available for remaining balance. Went from 2,502 to 3,502. So you're basically encumbering it. You're taking it out of the encumbered funds. It's still in your bank account. You've just encumbered it and held it from your remaining balance. And by unencumbering it and taking $1,000 out of box C, you've just increased the amount available for granting because that money is still in your bank account.
Thank you.
Is that clear? Okay.
There was a question about the correlation between box 7 on the account form and box F on the calculate amount to grant.
Mm-hmm.
The question is there ever a scenario in which they would not be the same number?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I chose to show you, I'm going to take amount of that 1,500 because I want to keep it. But if you have 1,500 left over in local funds and you want to use all of it for your granting, you can just be a zero, and that's going to change. Now I have $9,202. If you don't want to hold 1,500 and you just want to hold 500, you can do it as well. And whatever amount of money you want to use sort of towards the grant cycle, you don't have to use that full 1,500. But it will affect the amount available for granting. So now I have more money for granting because I don't want to use that 1,500 completely for something else. I want to put it into the grant cycle so that we can give out more money. So yes, it can be that full amount or any part of that amount that you want to hold.
Thank you. Can you scroll down, Lisa?
Yep.
It says council programs at the bottom. Oh, you went up. So all the way down to the bottom here. Yes, council programs.
Yeah.
So it says here that you enter that in the grant decisions report.
Yes. Thank you, Cheyenne, for bringing that forward.
Yes, that this is not, that's here, but that's calculated off of this box H here, the FY25 allocation.
Correct.
And so when you do the question in here, after I confirm that, is when you are going for administrative funds and it's 5%, are you still calculating it in box H, off of what we have in box H?
Yes.
Or
so you're right. So I understand because it's a little confusing, and we've all talked about this about having the council program be part of this, but the way the system runs is that if you are going to be taking, you have to remember, if you're going to be taking council program funds at 20%, that is that information is input into the other tab on grant decisions that will be sending you the recording on that. But the administrative funds and the council funds, the 20 and the 5% are always taken from the current FY25 allocation. So I could take 5% of the 5,700, and I can also take 20% of the 5,700, which is going to decrease the amount that you have available for granting, right? So, but the council program money that you might want to take for a council program, you enter it in the grant decisions report and not here. So you just have to know that. So like right now I have 8,700. Let's say I want to do a council program and I want to do 500. You're going to put that in the grant decision section, but know that you only have 8. You're only going to end up having 8,200 to grant.
Thank you. And I know that you said that you can use any council raised funds as administrative funds. There was a question about interest earned on the funds, if that has to be integrated into the entire amount, or if that can also be set aside for administrative funds.
You can use those locally raised funds, the municipal revenue, the interest income, the other revenue that you might raise from fundraising or something. You can use that as long as it follows the guidelines of Mass Cultural Council, not the time frame that it's used for arts, humanities, and sciences, right? So you could, I guess you could use some of that for administrative funds if you were, if you were doing a grant reception or something like that. But really, your administrative funds money should come out of your allocation, your 5% of your allocation.
Thank you. Those are, I think, a good thank you, Heidi, for reminding me. There was a question about rolling over encumbered funds. How long are the grants required to be rolled over? Or how long can you roll over money? I think both sides of it.
Okay, so you have encumbered funds. Let's say right here, right now, we have 3,000 in encumbered funds. We're going to hold our grant meeting and with the amount of money that we believe we have. Now someone calls after we had our grant meeting and they're saying, oh, we can't actually do our program. Sorry, we didn't tell you that ahead of time. But you've already held your grant meeting around applications. You've already made your decisions. So that money will get rolled over into FY26. That is the only time when you should really be rolling over money. LCCs should be spending the entire amount of granting available. Right. So in this 8,700, which if you wanted to do a council program could be 8,200, this is the amount of money that should be granted out. So rolling over, if you need to roll over because you've already held your grant meeting, you've already made your decisions, you've already decided how much money each one of your grantees are going to get, and then someone says, oh, we're not going to do our program, that is the only time really that money should get rolled over from the Mass Cultural Council allocation funds. In terms of local funds, each individual LCC should be checking with their municipality about how long they can roll that over. Some allow it to roll over 1-2 years, some don't allow it to roll over. But that's basically when it becomes unencumbered, too late, and then it rolls over to the next year. It needs to be spent in that next fiscal year. And no money should be just held back just in case. The Mass Cultural Council allocation money needs to be spent in the year that it's given.
And thank you. The last question I will give to the raised hand. Carrie Cooper is a municipal accountant. She has thank you for joining us, Carrie. Also, she has a very specific question about what's happening with her forms at the moment. But I figured you could get an idea and share any wisdom you have open and then take it offline with Carrie to help her fix her problem. So I think you have to invite Carrie to unmute herself.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Carrie. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so my concern is this last year, apparently, I don't know if our report was filled out wrong or in the encumbrances or so forth, but we started our balance up over $14,000. Okay, that includes some local funds and so forth. We received around 7,100 in state revenue. Now, our expenditures include expenditures from the prior year. I mean, this year we expended it, but it includes from funding from the prior year. So it's showing that I have a negative account balance at the end of the fiscal year, which I don't. So
No.
why
You
is it?
shouldn't. I mean, if you have, how much did you say? Well, we can actually do this offline. But so you came in with and so you're talking about fiscal year 24, trying to fill in the first part of the account form?
Exactly. It's
Okay.
not, shouldn't it calculate at the end of the year saying what our account balance is?
It
Include
should. I
that
mean,
14,000?
we'll include that 14,000. That's what this end of the year balance is, right? I don't know, you might not have gotten an updated form. So so we sent out on August 22nd an updated form um, with these new formulas. So this year box 6, B C9, right, which is the beginning balance, plus C26, which is full revenues, minus C33, which is total expenditures.
So apparently I did not get the new form. I'm still using the form and the calculation's only C26 minus C33.
Yeah. Okay. That's the problem.
So is there any way that you could send me the new form?
Absolutely. I will send that out to you.
Thank you.
And what municipality?
From the town of Air.
Okay, great. I will send that out right after this.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. More questions, Cheyenne or Timothea?
There was a question about when will the panel book be ready?
So panel books are going to be ready. The application deadline is the 16th at 11:59. So technically they'll be ready on the 17th, but I would say just to be sure, because we'd like to do spot checks on them before you all are able to download them. So I would say no later than the 18th of October, which is great because you can start to hold your voting meetings, before, anytime between like October 19th and before Thanksgiving. So I think we're really excited about the opportunity to be able to have you all do that, and that you're not waiting until November for those books, that you can actually download them yourselves. Or oftentimes LCCs are now just reading them online instead of having to download them. But remember, you can also use your admin money if you need to print out panel books, if that's a way that you choose to use that.
Thank you, Lisa. And I believe in the council, each LCC member, I believe, has access to download the council book, the panel books as they are. So until that 17th, 18th date that Lisa gave, you cannot be sure that it's every single application with every piece of information as it will be. But councils that want to try to do some legwork in advance, maybe have a problem with loading all of the applications into this after October place, can familiarize themselves with the applications that have been submitted already.
Right.
And there has been questions about what you can and cannot do with the panel book. So I know it's a lot, Lisa, if you can let us know any ways to make them more manageable.
Oh, I know. We try every year. They can be thick and long. So
Lisa,
Yep.
There's been a few people asking about where local cultural councils can put their council program funds.
Do you mean what can they spend their council program funds on?
No, the council program, so the 20%, it's not on the LCC account for the calculate amount available for granting. It's in the grant decisions form, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
because you have to vote on that as a council about whether or not you're going to be doing a council program. So when you're in your portal, you'll be able to see on the three, it's like priorities and then grant decisions, financial documents, and then grant decisions. That's a whole nother tab. It goes in there because the idea is that if you're doing a council program, it's basically an application to the program. So when you're making your decisions about who's going to get what money and you want to do a council program and you know how much that is, when you go to your grant decisions report to fill that in, you're going to say, oh, we're going to take 20%. So we're going to do we're going to take $1,000. And that gets calculated in with all the other applications that you're giving money to. So it may not feel intuitive, but when you go to the grant decision report, that's where you're putting those funds in. So some LCCs don't do council programs, so they go right from here. But if you are, just remember as you're voting on that if you have 8,700 that this form is telling you, and you voted to do a council program and put $1,000 towards it, just know that you're only going to be able to grant out 7,200 instead of the 8,200 because you know you're going to put that in the grants decision report. In the next tab, that's where it goes.
Lisa, say somebody is going to take out their checkbook and donate to the local cultural council. Who would they make that out to?
You would make it out to the local cultural council, to Air Cultural Council, and it would get submitted and it would be submitted to the municipality to deposit in their account.
Thank you. And there have been some questions that are generally, so the LCC needs to have its own account?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So as we said here, right here, according to, Civido Mass General Laws, Chapter 10, Section 158, municipal accounts must be revolving accounts kept separate and apart from all other monies administered by the city or town treasurer. So the LCC should have their own revolving account within the municipality that houses all of their money, including municipal money, which is why on the account form, you have all these different sections that take a snapshot of the LCC account. It accounts for municipal money, it accounts for fundraising, it accounts for interest, all in that one form, because that's exactly what should be in the LCC account. It shouldn't be a separate account. There shouldn't be separate accounts, and they shouldn't be mingled with other city or town money.
Lisa, can you please talk about scholarships? There was a recent change about the restriction on them.
Right. So it was that organizations could apply for scholarships
Are you
for
done?
Yeah, I'm heading out.
could
Okay,
apply for
back, Laura?
scholarships. They could apply
No.
for scholarships to give out scholarship money. And so this year we made the decision that if a council feels that it's public benefit or in their best interest, that individuals could apply for scholarship funds directly to the LCC. But remember, as you're making your decisions, one of the biggest decisions you're making as
Yeah, nice meeting you.
you're giving, as you're making decisions about what you're going to grant and what you're not going to grant for your community is what is of the best public interest. and public benefit, basically. It's actually public benefit for your community. So you're weighing all of these things with all of the different applications that are coming in. It's just a restriction that we wanted to take away just in case there were councils that were getting in, these requests from students or, and have LCCs make that decision. It doesn't mean that organizations still can't do that, apply to have scholarship money to give out themselves. That's still available also, but we just changed it for this year.
Lisa, can you go back to the account form spreadsheet? There's a definitions tab. We've had a question about what revolving account means, and I think there's might be some other words in that list that are helpful to know.
In here, right here?
Yes. So I don't know if revolving account is defined in there. But that is
I
the
don't
question.
believe. I think it's just an account that's constantly, that it's it's just basically the checking account that the LCC has that it's constantly having money come in and go out and come in and go out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for expenditures, we're looking for one total number that is cumulative of all of the payments made from the
Yes.
LCC's account.
That's where it's where when you click on this tab. So when you're on the account form,
Mhm.
you click on expenditure detail, you put in all your here, you put in who the payee is, the payment, each amount, and then it all gets aggregated right here, which then when you hit the return to the account form, it automatically populates.
Thank you so much.
That's for all of your expenditures for fiscal year 24. And the amount available for granting, it's different. You're just going to calculate that based on what you have in your account. With the accountant is going to say, this is how much money I spent from July 1 to present day. And this is how much money we're encumbering because these people haven't sent in their money yet. So it really happens right here on this account form when you're doing your calculations to give us a snapshot of FY24.
Can you also talk about the difference between encumbered and unencumbered?
So encumbered is the money that you've basically spent but hasn't left your account. So you're encumbering money, you're holding on to money because you have 6 grantees that have not submitted any reimbursement or their direct grant, but you gave them the money, but they haven't used it yet. They haven't asked for it yet, which is why when I said before, if you are in that situation at this date and you haven't heard from these grantees, it's a good idea, it's good practice to email people who have yet to do their reimbursements or their direct grant to see whether or not they're actually going to use it by the end of the year. Just so that you can either unencumber or encumber the money. So you're encumbering it because you don't want to spend it. It can't be part of your amount available for granting, because then you're not going to have enough money. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to account for that. And now we already gave out all of our money and we get into a sticky situation. As far as the unencumbered is the money that's available for you to use. And that's why we went from encumbering $4,000 and then finding out a grantee wasn't going to do their program. So you had an extra $1,000. So you decreased that amount of encumbered money to $3,000, which freed up $1,000 to add to your amount available for granting. Well, this is great. I don't know if there's any more questions. I think that if you have them, we're here for you. As we've said before, it should be pretty easy for you to be able to work with your municipality to get this correct amount of money. But I know sometimes there can be challenges. So as I said, before you go into your grant meetings, if you're not really clear, your voting meetings, if you're not really clear of what the amount really is, just please check in with one of us and we're more than happy to go over all of it with you and help you resolve any issues that you might have, any money that is left over, any money that's someone's only partially returning. We can have those conversations with you. So really appreciate you all being on with us today, and I hope you have an enjoyable weekend. And thanks to Cheyenne and Timothea for answering your questions that keep coming into the Q&A. And we'll also do a Q&A sheet. We'll make sure that these questions that are being answered are also being shared with you in addition to the PowerPoint.